Hi everyone, welcome back to Hands-Free Studying for the MBE, brought to you by Brainscape. These upcoming questions are related to civil procedure pretrial adjudication concepts. Let's get started. Question 1. What does it mean if a case is dismissed with prejudice and without prejudice? If a case is dismissed with prejudice, it's considered an adjudication on the merits and you cannot relitigate. If a case is dismissed without prejudice, then there has been no adjudication on the merits and you can relitigate. Question 2. When may a plaintiff voluntarily dismiss an action without a court order? A plaintiff can voluntarily dismiss without a court order by one of two ways: either filing a notice of dismissal before the opposing party serves either an answer or a motion for summary judgment, whichever comes first, or by a stipulation of dismissal signed by all parties who have appeared. And this is governed by Rule 41A 1A. Question 3. Can a plaintiff relitigate a claim after dismissal if the claim was dismissed by a court order or stipulation, by the plaintiff herself, by settlement? 1. A plaintiff can relitigate a claim after dismissal by a court order or stipulation because it's considered without prejudice. 2. A plaintiff can relitigate a claim after dismissal by the plaintiff herself because it's considered without prejudice unless it's the plaintiff's second dismissal on the claim, which is then considered to be dismissed with prejudice. And 3. A plaintiff cannot relitigate a claim after dismissal if the claim was dismissed by settlement, because that's considered to be dismissed with prejudice. Question 4. What is an involuntary dismissal under Rule 41B? An involuntary dismissal under Rule 41B is when the defendant seeks to dismiss the action because the plaintiff has violated the rules or a court order. This is governed by Rule 41B. Question 5. An involuntary dismissal under Rule 41B is considered with or without prejudice. The correct answer is an involuntary dismissal under Rule 41B is considered with prejudice. And let's take a quick study break to remind you to drink plenty of water. Remember that your brain is so much better able to learn and retain knowledge when it's fully hydrated. So take a big sip and let's get ready for the final 5 questions. Question 6. What is a default under Rule 55A? A default under Rule 55A occurs when the defendant fails to timely respond to the complaint, which is usually within 21 days of service or 60 days after waiver. Now note, this is not the same as a default judgment, which is when the court enters the default into the record. Question 7. What is a default judgment under Rule 55B? A default judgment under Rule 55B is a judgment on the record that the defendant defaulted. Question 8. What is the difference between a default and a default judgment? A default is the defendant's failure to respond, which is stage 1 in the process. And a default judgment is a judgment entered into the record after the defendant has defaulted, or stage 2. Question 9. When can the court clerk enter a default judgment? The court clerk can enter a default judgment if the plaintiff shows 5 things: that the defendant was properly served, that the deadline to respond has expired, the defendant failed to respond, the defendant is not a minor or incompetent, and 5, that the sum owed is certain, and this is shown by affidavit. Question 10. What can the plaintiff do if the sum of damages is uncertain when seeking a default judgment? The plaintiff can seek a default judgment from the court, and the judge will then hold a hearing to determine the damages. Now note, the court clerk cannot enter a default judgment if the damages are uncertain. This must be done by a judge only. And that's the end of your 10 flashcard study round. You're almost halfway toward mastery of civil procedure pretrial adjudication. To reach full mastery, remember to study in Brainscape. Our mobile and web app uses the latest in spaced repetition techniques, allowing you to optimize your study time and track your progress down to the finest detail. Of course, when you're driving, cooking, exercising, or otherwise unable to navigate the app, be sure to keep listening to the rest of this hands-free studying playlist. No matter what subject you're learning and what method you're studying it, Brainscape helps you rise to your challenge.